How can IUL outpace inflation? By the end of this video episode, you will understand how a max-funded IUL links your returns to the things that inflate. By rebalancing your portfolio with a professional advisor, you can actually earn returns that are greater than the inflation rate at any given time. So, I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist, retirement planning specialist now for north of 48 years. If you've watched any of my other educational episodes, one of my favorite financial vehicles that allows people to accumulate their money tax-free and then be able to access money tax-free, not just for retirement, anytime, okay? And when you ultimately pass away, it blossoms, increases in value, and transfers tax-free, is a max-funded indexed universal life insurance policy. We call that IUL. Now, indexed universal life is my favorite because it allows the policy owner to be able to link their returns to an index or indices of their choice so that they can outpace inflation when inflation starts to get out of control. And this has helped me to always earn at least 5.5% greater than the inflation rate at any given time. In fact, even clear back in 1980. Now, I started in 1974. And back then, Jimmy Carter, the inflation rate got up to double digits. And so when inflation was at 10, I was actually earning 15.5% in my normal universal life. Well, that was nice because I was outpacing inflation. But then interest rates started coming down, and that's why in 1997, indexed universal life came out so that people could continue to link their returns to the things that were inflating. And you'll understand this as I proceed. Inflation, I don't like it any more than probably you do, but it doesn't hurt me. It actually helps me. If you understand that if you have your money in a bank or a credit union earning, let's say 1%, you're like metaphorically rowing upstream at the rate of 1 mile an hour. And the current of inflation, if it's coming down at 3, 5, 7, 15, you're going backwards. Inflation is what I call the hidden tax, and it's the second big danger that causes most Americans to outlive their money in retirement. So at the recording of this episode, the actual inflation rate in the previous year, 2021, was over 15%. Now, some people argue and say, oh no, the consumer price index said inflation was only 5.8%. That's why Social Security recipients only got 5.8 or 5.9% increase. I go, oh brother, if you haven't been around, back in the 80s, because of Carter, when inflation started getting out of control, the federal government could not afford to pay Social Security recipients the actual rate of inflation. And so they changed the way they calculate the consumer price index. In a nutshell, instead of comparing the same basket of goods to the identical basket of goods the next year, apples to apples, they changed it from apples to oranges. So they actually have the right to change the comparison from, let's say, filet mignon steak one year to hamburger the next year because it's still red meat. And they get away with this. So when they reported with the consumer price index in the year 2021 that inflation or the CPI went up 5.8, you can pretty much triple that and you'll get the real rate of inflation because many people realize that gasoline went up 50% or higher, sometimes 100% in some areas. Prescriptions, used cars, all kinds of things went through the roof, okay? That's not what this video is about. It's about how do you protect yourself. So let's go back to indexing simplified so that we sort of pick up where maybe you've left off in other episodes. Let's say you have $1 million accumulated in an IUL policy, just to take a snapshot in time, and you can extrapolate from this whether you have 100,000 or 10 million. If you have $1 million of cash value in the policy, you know that the insurance company, because if they're earning a lower interest rate on their general account portfolio, where they invest their money in AAA, AA bonds and mortgages on shopping malls and skyscrapers and so forth, let's say they're earning 4%. So you can settle for whatever the general account portfolio rate is, and if they're earning 4, they might need 1 of those percentage points for their profit. I mean, hello, they're in business for a profit, so you may only net 3%. You can take 3% tax-free, which is actually 3 times what banks are paying, And they'll charge you tax on that sooner or later. But if you feel bullish about America, remember, you can say, take my 4% interest on my million, my 40,000, and I'm willing to give up that for short interest, but don't put my million at risk. So your million stays safe in the insurance company earning 4. They don't put that in the market, but you're linking your return to an index like the S&P. That's why this is not an index mutual fund. This is a strategy. They take the 40,000 of interest they're earning on your million, and they don't have to hold it for you because you said you can have it. They fund an options budget, and so they buy upside options in the S&P. So if the market goes up 8%, they can pay you 80,000. They can afford to do it because your options doubled. Or maybe they tripled to 12, and so maybe you earned 120,000 that year. But the insurance company can afford to do that because of the options. Some years you choose no cap, and so like in 2020 to 2021, a lot of our clients made 61% net because they chose a no cap. Okay. They didn't cap the amount by keeping the protection on the floor. You can link your returns to an index or indices. You can diversify with different indices. So in this episode, we want to talk about how do you outpace inflation. You do it by rebalancing and diversifying. So let me give you some examples. Many times the sharp IUL professionals, my 2 sons are 2 of them, they will allocate 40% of their clients in a 1-year high cap index. You will be capped at maybe 11% on that one. If the market goes up higher, they only pay 11, but they protect you. 0 is your hero. You have a protected floor. 40% might be in a 2-year, so you wait for 2 years before you see what the difference in the S&P is or the Dow or whatever. And that's a 19% cap because they have 24 months that they measure, okay? And maybe 20% in a 5-year. So you wait 5 years to determine how much is the market up or the S&P higher than it was 5 years earlier. There is no cap with that one. This is a very common, simplified, diversified way to do an IUL policy, okay? If you had done this, okay, the average crediting rate in any 20-year period, based upon how long this has been around and even hypothetically, even before it started in 1997, your average return would have been 11.3%. That outpaced inflation during those periods because inflation was around 3%. We outpaced inflation all the way through at 11.3. Sometimes my sons will say, put 50% in the 2-year and 50% in the 5-year because we think right now with the volatile market, you'll come out ahead. And sure enough, the average return is 14% in any 20-year period, okay, for the last several decades. 14%. If inflation was 8 or 9, you would have outperformed or outpaced inflation by 5 percentage points, okay? A lot of Americans have not been able to do this. They've been losing ground. They've been earning, even in the market, only 3.5%, and inflation now is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15%. What about the year 2020 when COVID-19 pandemic hit? And 2021. When my sons saw the opportunity in March of 2020, when the market dropped 30%, they told their clients, link to a no cap, 1 year, point to point, okay? So you do that and there are charges or spreads. So this is where we had clients that got 61.33% in 1 year. A client that had 800,000 in March of 2020 ended up with 1,380,000 1 year later. Made over $500,000 in his indexed universal life policy because he was able to link, and the market did go up 66.33%, but they subtract 5 percentage points, that's called a spread, and he netted 61.33%. Many of our clients did. But then there is such a thing as a multiplier. You can actually tell the insurance company, hey, you know, instead of capping me at a 0, 0 is your hero, that if the market crashes, you didn't make anything, but you didn't lose. You can go, you know what? I don't want to lose 40% if the market drops 40, but I'm okay losing 7.5. If I have $1 million, I'm willing to go down 75,000. So I still have 925,000, but I don't want to lose 400,000. So it's sort of like the reverse. You're saying cap me at no more than 7.5% loss, but now they take that 7.5% on your million, and that's an extra 75,000 to add to the other, 40,000 for an options budget. If you let them do that, and the market goes up, they'll pay you 2.7 times. This is called a multiplier. They'll pay you 2.7 times. If the market only went up 10, they'll pay you 27%. They'll subtract the 7.5%, and you net what, 19.5? Yeah, you outperformed inflation at 15. But in actuality, there were people that earned the 61%, and they got 2.7 times that. They ended up netting 153% tax-free. Does that outperform inflation at 15? Yeah, by 10 times. Sometimes you can say, well, you know what? I'm willing to lose as much as 5% on $1 million. I'm willing to go down to 950,000. And if you give them that much for the options budget, they'll pay you 2.14 times whatever it does. So if the market went up 10, they'll pay you 21.4 minus the 5%, okay? Which is over 16%. Folks, this is how you can outpace inflation. But you cannot do it if your IUL policy is not structured correctly or funded properly. So post a comment on here. Share this with somebody who really ought to watch these episodes. But as you prepare to meet with an IUL professional, ask them to show you how to diversify and how you can choose different indices and diversify maybe between 3 or 2, and maybe some years to even choose to opt for a multiplier or a no cap based upon, is the market down and the chance of it going back up is much greater than trying to pick up from here and go up? No. If it goes down, that spells opportunity. And that's the beauty behind meeting with an IUL professional who knows what they are doing and stays on top of it. So the message here is diversify. Owning several laser funds, using 2 or more products or companies, linking to different indices, utilizing various indexing strategies, and rebalancing often with a professional. That is the key. That's why I plead with you to meet with an IUL professional who knows what they're doing. So make sure you refer to this book, The Laser Fund. I have some chapters in here that talk about this very concept. But if you have not claimed your free copy yet, be sure and go to laserfund.com or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling, and I'll pay for the book and fire it out. There's options there to listen and learn and watch and learn, but when you meet with an IUL professional, they will help you understand what all this means with your numbers, with your assets in your particular set of circumstances. Here's to your brighter future.